The new chapter of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex just dropped, chapter 6, and we have a lot to talk about. In the last chapter, we got to see what happened 2 years back with Boruto and Sasuke. We got to see bits of his training and learn how much he was able to be taught by Sasuke in just a year, along with how Sasuke inevitably got absorbed by the claw grime and turned into a tree, and Boruto taking his sword and seeing how he became the man he is today. We got to see Yamato for the first time in TBV, and we know that he knows his memories were overwritten due to science and him being able to identify his print on Kawaki. Boruto returned to the village with a message for Sarada, and Sarada runs in to hug him, and as Boruto hugs back, he says he's home, and that's exactly where the last chapter of TBV ends. Before we get started, please just take a moment and hit the like button, comment some video ideas that I can cover in the future, and subscribe with noties on so you don't miss when I upload another video. The chapter starts off with Shikamaru talking to the village elders, and of course, the elders are talking about Boruto the betrayer. They said they've been chasing him since he killed the Hokage, and that's why he came back. Shikamaru says he doesn't know the truth, but looking at the result, they can't deny that Boruto saved them, but he is missing again. The elders tell Shikamaru that it doesn't matter what the reason is and that they must eliminate Boruto. It's a problem with the trust in the village, and that the feudal lords are upset not only because of the budget, but they might be in danger of running the village. Shikamaru says he understands and tells them to excuse him as he tries to walk out, but the elders stop him and tell him that it's been 3 years and the time limit that Shikamaru set is up. They tell him to just become the 8th Hokage once and for all, and that if they're like this, not only is it a problem of the land of fire, but they won't appeal to other villages in this state either. Shikamaru just thinks about what was said to him and just says that he'll be back to report again and for him to be excused. We cut to the Hokage office with Shikamaru again, but someone knocks on the door and it's Ino with documents that she got for Shikamaru. Ino asks Shikamaru what he's gonna use these old mission records for, and Shikamaru is kinda cryptic and eventually tells Ino thanks and that she can leave. Ino leaves, but she notices something is up and uses her mind jutsu to talk to Shikamaru and ask him if the documents were just an excuse and for him to explain what he really wants. Shikamaru says he doesn't want to be heard by the detection team, also by Ada, Kawaki, and Yamato, and tells Ino not to share communication with anyone. Ino says she's sorry, but that depends on the topic since communication without records is against the rules, but Shikamaru tells her that it's for the safety of the village and that if Ino can't follow him, then their conversation is over. He can't rely on anyone else but Ino for this. We cut again to Kawaki, Ada, and Damon eating and talking about the Shinju who now have awakened consciousness. Ada tells Kawaki she doesn't know why they came to be, but they are transforming into something completely different. Kawaki asks about Code and if he has control over them, but Ada tells him that Code ran away somewhere and that the Shinju already grew into something that Code can't handle. She says what's bothering her is that their purpose is not only to eat Boruto and Kawaki as an Otsutsuki, but something else. The 7th Hokage Naruto Uzumaki is also their target. Ada also tried to add that her life is in danger as well, but Kawaki just cuts her off and asks why are they after Lord 7th and for what purpose, to which Ada says she doesn't know, but Kawaki says it doesn't matter since Lord 7th is in his hands and whoever those guys are, it doesn't change that he's gonna eliminate every single last one of them. Damon butts in and says to Kawaki that other than them three, no one else knows that Naruto is alive besides Boruto and Sasuke. He says no one will believe them since they're criminals, but if those monsters come to look for the Hokage, wouldn't everyone notice that Kawaki told a lie? Damon continues and says that he doesn't really carry the weight since the only people he cares about is him and his sister, and he can care less about what happens to Kawaki. Ada tells Damon to stop and not to say anything weird, and Kawaki just gets up and leaves with Ada asking him about where he's going, but Kawaki just shrugs her off and tells her not to bother him and to just look for herself if she wants to know. Kawaki walks outside to see Mitsuki, and we learn that Mitsuki is in charge of monitoring Kawaki and Ada. Kawaki is annoyed and Mitsuki just tells him that if he's gonna complain about the same thing he usually does, then he can just talk to the 8th Hokage. Kawaki tells Mitsuki to not blame anyone for this and calls him goldfish droppings, which apparently means a person that follows others like a shadow. Cutting back to Boruto, Sarada, and Sumire, Boruto and Sarada are shown sitting on the bench with Sarada seemingly looking nervous and starts to blush at the thought of hugging Boruto. She says she hugged him out of emotion, but she doesn't know what to talk about and that there's so many things she wants to ask him. Sumire notices Sarada's pondering and eases into the conversation by saying it's been 3 years and that she's glad Boruto looks fine. Boruto says yeah, he's glad she looks fine too, and turns to Sarada and says her too, but he didn't expect her to suddenly jump on him. Sarada says he has no idea how worried she was, and Boruto responds saying he knows and he's glad they're okay as well. Sumire asks Boruto if he's okay, especially with him being in a place like the Leaf, but Boruto says he's keeping his chakra suppressed suppressed, so he's not worried about being detected by the detection team, but eventually Kawaki will notice him, and that's why they don't have much time. He says he came here to talk about his master, to tell Sarada about Sasuke. Sarada is of course surprised and asks Boruto what happened to her father, to which Boruto breaks the news to her and says his master was absorbed by the Ten Tails. We make a quick cut back to Kawaki and Mitsuki, and Kawaki says he feels Boruto as we see Mitsuki with the snake coming out of his sleeve, while Kawaki has his back turned, seemingly planning to do something to Kawaki. Sarada asks Boruto if he's talking about the tree, and Boruto says that's right, his master sacrificed himself to save his life, and he can't deny that Sasuke was defeated because of him. Sumari tells Boruto that many people in the village were being attacked by claw grimes and turned into trees, and asks what is this all about, and that she can't believe they're eating people other than Otsutsuki. Boruto responds and says that the existence of Ten Tails just to eat chakra as a part of their instinct no matter who it is. They will eventually eat an Otsutsuki, and that the chakra would then turn the Ten Tails into a divine tree. At least that's how it's supposed to be in the past. Sarada questions what Boruto means by in the past, and Boruto says that for some reason they're already evolving into Shinju. We see the detection team looking at Mitsuki, and they're telling each other to connect Mitsuki with Lord 8, to which Shikamaru asks Mitsuki what's the problem. Mitsuki tells him that Boruto is here right now in the village and that Kawaki felt him, to which Shikamaru says he's not called by the detection team and concludes that Boruto can erase his chakra signature like Kawaki. Mitsuki says he's probably in the southern part of the village and asks if Ada can help them to get to his exact location. Shikamaru asks about Kawaki, and Mitsuki tells him that he'll go to where Boruto is since Boruto can feel Kawaki too, so if Kawaki comes close to Boruto, Boruto will notice, and that makes Kawaki not best suited to chase after Boruto, to which we see Kawaki knocked out on the ground with snake bites on his neck. Mitsuki tells Shikamaru to hurry up and that he doesn't want Boruto to escape, and we cut back to Boruto, Sarada, and Sumari again, as Sumari and Sarada is asking Boruto what he means that they're already transforming into Shinju. Boruto says he can't say for sure, but cold chakra might be affecting what's going on through the claw grimes. Boruto says he's not an Otsutsuki, but he does have a karma that comes from Ishiki, which the karma in itself is an aspect of the Otsutsuki, so it wouldn't be surprising if it has an influence. Shikamaru calls out to Boruto using mind-body transmission and tells him to answer without speaking and to not show his expression. He says to let him talk first, and that the conversation they're having is not from the detection team, it's from Ino herself, and that it's unofficial and won't be recorded. Sarada and Sumari ask if Boruto is listening, but Boruto just doesn't respond and follows Shikamaru's orders. Boruto tells Shikamaru that he's a Hokage now and asks him if he's okay sneaking around like this. Shikamaru responds saying some people call him that, but it's just tentative and that he's not officially the Hokage yet. Boruto says he's not talking about that, and that's how he can trust Shikamaru, but Shikamaru just tells him to hush and move from there because someone is coming after him. We then see snakes wrap around Boruto's body and tries to attack him, but Boruto responds by jumping and using his hip to fling his sword out his sheath, while using Flying Thunder God to teleport out of the snakes and catch his sword. Okay, this was honestly one of the hardest things I've ever seen in the entire franchise. Boruto drops to the ground as he looks at Mitsuki, who's already in Sage mode. Mitsuki says that him and Boruto have finally met and that he was waiting for this moment. Sarada tells Mitsuki to wait and listen to what they have to say, but Mitsuki says he doesn't know what Boruto told them, but Sarada needs to move because he can't afford to be soft right now. Mitsuki attacks Boruto with his snakes, but Boruto responds using purple lightning and his sword to slash Mitsuki's snakes. Mitsuki then uses hidden shadow snake hands to have snakes attack Boruto from below, but Boruto jumps in the sky and is shown the ability to fly while in one of the hardest poses I've seen. I mean, bro really looks like he's standing on a cloud. It doesn't get much better than that. Boruto tells Sarada that he promises he'll save his master and everyone that has turned into a tree, and Boruto looked as if he had something else to say, but just says never mind and that he will come again, as he flies away and we see a snake communicating with Mitsuki. Boruto continues speaking to Shikamaru and tells him that if he had business with him, he should have ordered Mitsuki to not attack him so that they didn't get interrupted. Shikamaru tells him that Konoha feels as if they have to exterminate Boruto no matter what, not only the village, but it's a decision that the Land of Fire as a whole agrees on, so stopping Mitsuki as Hokage doesn't make much sense. Boruto says he's backing himself up and asks what he wants, and Shikamaru tells Boruto that there are things that only he can see and do because he's Hokage. He can't help Boruto publicly, but he can give power to him via his own methods, and regarding all of that, he needs Boruto's help. Boruto says no thanks, but Shikamaru tells him to listen as he asks if Boruto is really Boruto Uzumaki. Ino seems confused and Boruto just pauses as Shikamaru struggles to believe it himself. He says he didn't even consider it as a possibility until Amado brought it up that his memory could be fabricated, but things start to fall into place when you switch the positions of Boruto and Kawaki. So Shikamaru asks for Boruto to tell him the truth, and he wants to hear Boruto's story. Boruto lands on the ground and says he's quite away from the village, so he should be outside Kawaki's range to get sensed, and asks how far does the mind transfer jutsu reach. Shikamaru responds and says about 100 kilometers around the village, and asks why, to which Boruto says he's sorry to cut the conversation short, but he has a loose end to tie up. As we see Mitsuki rapidly approaching Boruto, to which Boruto apologizes and says he's gonna have to get a little rough with Mitsuki, and that's exactly where chapter 6 of TBV ends. I feel like I say this every chapter at this point, but we once again have another 10 out of 10 chapter, and honestly, this is my personal favorite chapter out of TBV so far, even surpassing chapter 3 when we seen Uzuhiko for the first time. Something I never even considered was seeing the elders' thoughts on Boruto's sudden return and how they feel about the situation involving Naruto and Kawaki, which as expected they're not very happy, but it was still nice to see that deep into what Shikamaru was dealing with as intern Hokage. Speaking of, we now know that Shikamaru isn't the official 8th Hokage, which I know me and a lot of others were wondering about for a little while now. We don't know his reasons as to why he didn't officially take up the mantle of being Hokage, but if I had to guess, it's probably because he didn't want the job anyway, and he probably feels as if Naruto isn't actually dead. I hope to get answers on this though, because I feel like it's a really interesting plot point that can be cool for Shikamaru's character. Boruto finally told Sarada about Sasuke, and of course, there's a bit of controversy surrounding Sarada's reaction to Sasuke being trapped in a tree, so I'll just say this. Sarada already knows that people who have gotten trapped in trees aren't dead. She's experienced that firsthand with people in the village that have turned into trees. The news is also coming from someone she cares for and trusts, so that along with her knowing that Sasuke is still alive, it wouldn't make much sense for her to have an entire breakdown. It's not like Sarada is weak, and I feel as if people should put more respect on her name and give her props. Boruto vs Mitsuki is looking to be a fight we will truly enjoy, and from what we've seen this chapter, from both Boruto and Mitsuki, next month should be one to remember for sure, and definitely has potential to be one of the best we've seen so far. Boruto himself has done some of the coolest things I've ever seen from the Naruto franchise as a whole, and if I gotta be honest, Boruto has now become my favorite character in the entire franchise. Things like him throwing his sword out his sheath by jumping out his seat and using his hips since he was trapped and couldn't use his hands, then use flying Raijin to get out the snakes that's trapping him and teleporting to his sword. It honestly blew my mind on first read, and I couldn't get over how cool Boruto is and has been since TBV started. Boruto even used purple lightning and cloaked his sword with it, similar to how Sasuke would cloak his sword with Chidori. Also, I can't defend Kawaki anymore, he's just on fraud watch at this point. All in all though, this was an amazing chapter, and I can't wait for the next one to come out next month. Let me know what you all thought of the chapter. I'll be responding to all comments down below. Until next time.